My MIL came over while I was out and reorganized my office. She deleted my work files, threw out my planner, and left a note that said, "A good wife doesn't need deadlines." My husband said she thought she was helping. I had a presentation the next day. I bombed it, lost the promotion. When I told her what happened, she smiled and said, "Now you can focus on what matters." I rebuilt my portfolio and sent the new offer letter straight to her inbox. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and I've spent the last 6 years grinding at my job in project management for a mid-sized tech company. I wasn't just coasting either. I worked late, I worked weekends, I skipped vacations to hit deadlines. My boss had been hinting for months that the next big promotion was mine if I nailed the presentation I had coming up. It wasn't just about the money. It was about finally having real authority, leading big projects, making decisions instead of waiting for someone else to approve everything I did. I'm married to Mark. We've been together for 6 years. Things were good in the beginning. They were simple. Back then, Cheryl, my mother-in-law, mostly kept her opinions to herself. But once we got married, it was like she decided it was her mission to fix me. Cheryl grew up old school. She thinks women should stay home, cook, clean, pop out babies, and never have their own lives. She said it straight to my face before, "Working women are just trying to compete with men. It's unnatural." I used to laugh it off. Mark told me she didn't mean anything by it, that she was from a different time. I tried to believe that. God, I was so stupid. 2 weeks ago, the Friday before my big presentation, I had to run into the office to finalize a few things. Mark was at work too, doing overtime at the auto shop. I was only supposed to be gone a few hours. When I got back, the house looked normal. Nothing was broken. No signs of a break-in. But when I went to grab my laptop from my home office, I froze. My door was open. Wide open. I never leave it like that. I walked in, and it felt like the air got sucked out of my lungs. My laptop was wiped clean. Files gone. Desktop empty. My color-coded binders were missing. My paper planner, where I kept every appointment, deadline, and task for months, wasn't on the desk. It wasn't anywhere. My backup flash drive that I always kept tucked in the drawer? Gone. The whiteboard where I had outlined my entire presentation? Wiped clean. The walls looked too bare. The shelves were empty except for a stupid vase Cheryl had given us last Christmas. And on my desk, front and center, was a single note: "A good wife doesn't need deadlines." At first, I thought maybe I was hallucinating. Maybe it was a bad dream. I touched the desk. It was real. My hands started to shake. I kept telling myself there had to be some explanation that made sense. I called Mark. He answered on the third ring, sounding casual. I was already yelling, "What the hell happened to my office? Who's been here?" Mark went quiet. Then he said, "Oh, Mom stopped by. She said she straightened up a little." Straightened up. I swear, I almost threw my phone through the window. I told him my files were gone. My planner was missing. Everything I needed for my presentation was destroyed. And he said, she thought she was helping. I screamed at him so loud I made myself hoarse. I demanded he come home immediately. He dragged his feet, but eventually he showed up, looking sheepish like a kid who got caught sneaking cookies. I tore through the house looking for anything that Cheryl might have just moved. No luck. My planner? She threw it away. My flash drive? She said it looked old and tossed it. My work binders? Clutter, according to her. Mark stood there the whole time, saying things like, "She didn't mean any harm. You can redo it, right? Maybe it's for the best. You're always so stressed." I cried that night. Full-on ugly cried. Not just because of the work, but because I realized I couldn't count on Mark to stand up for me. Not against his mother. Maybe not ever. I tried to salvage what I could for the next day, but it was hopeless. I stayed up until 4 a.m. trying to recreate spreadsheets and workflows from memory. The next morning, I walked into that conference room running on no sleep, barely holding it together. The presentation was a disaster. I stumbled over my words. I blanked on key points. My boss kept giving me that disappointed frown I used to reserve for interns who blew off meetings. I wanted to crawl under the table and die. By the time I left, I already knew. Promotion? Gone. Maybe even respect from half my coworkers? Gone too. When I got home, Mark wasn't even there. He was out having lunch with Cheryl. Like it was just another Saturday. I called Cheryl. I told her everything, the files, the planner, the ruined presentation. I thought maybe if she heard it out loud, she'd realize what she did. Instead, she laughed. Actually laughed. And said, "Now you can focus on what really matters. You were never meant for that kind of life anyway." I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. That night, I packed a bag and stayed with my best friend, Kelsey. I told Mark I needed space. He cried. He said I was overreacting. That Cheryl only wanted what was best for me. That she meant well. I told him it didn't matter. The damage was done. His loyalty was clear. For 2 weeks, I rebuilt. I redid my portfolio. I reached out to old bosses and coworkers, asked for letters of recommendation. I worked harder than I ever had before. And you know what? It paid off. Last Friday, I got an offer from a bigger company. Double the pay. Full remote. Signing bonus. Way better benefits. I accepted without hesitation. Before I told Mark or anyone else, I sent the offer letter to Cheryl. No note. No smiley face. No explanation. Just the letter. 2 minutes later, my phone started blowing up. First Cheryl. Then Mark. Then Cheryl again. I didn't answer a single call. When Mark finally came home, he demanded to know why I humiliated his mother. I told him, "This isn't about her. It's about me. She thought she could break me. She thought she could control me. She failed. And I wanted her to know it." We slept in separate rooms that night. He hasn't apologized. He keeps saying I'm making a big deal out of nothing. I don't know what's going to happen next. Counseling? Divorce? I'm open to whatever makes me feel free again. Because one thing's for sure, I'm never letting anyone erase me again. The day after I sent Cheryl the offer letter, things got even uglier. I woke up to banging on the front door. It was 7:30 in the morning. I looked out the window, and there she was. Cheryl. Standing on my porch like she owned the place, holding a Tupperware of something. I didn't open the door. I stood there in my pajamas, arms crossed, just staring at her through the peephole. She knocked again. Harder. I heard her shout through the door, "You're ruining your marriage over a job." Then she said something that made my blood run cold. I did what I had to do. Mark deserves better than a selfish wife. I almost opened the door right then, just to scream in her face. But I didn't. I didn't trust myself not to put my fist through a wall, or worse. Instead, I went back upstairs, locked the bedroom door, and texted Mark, "Get your mother off our property." Now. No answer. She stood out there for almost an hour. Finally, she left, slamming the Tupperware down so hard it cracked. When Mark came home that night, he acted like I was the problem. He actually had the nerve to say, "You could have just let her in. She was trying to make peace." I laughed. I actually laughed in his face. Making peace? By calling me selfish? By destroying my work? You think that's peace? He didn't have an answer. He just sat there, rubbing his face like he was the victim. That's when I told him, plain and clear, "If you can't protect me from your mother, I'll protect myself." Alone. He asked if I was threatening him. I said no. I was making a promise. For the next few days, I didn't talk to either of them. I focused on my new job, my new team, my new future. But Cheryl wasn't done. A few nights later, I came home from a late meeting to find our mailbox stuffed with homemaking magazines. Issues from the 1970s and 80s. One of them had a post-it stuck to it in handwriting that looked suspiciously like Cheryl's. You could still turn things around. I sat down on the front step and laughed until I cried. Mark didn't even pretend to be outraged. He just said, "Maybe she has a point. Maybe you'd be happier if you stopped chasing all this career stuff." That's when it clicked. He didn't just fail to defend me. He agreed with her. He had always agreed with her. He just didn't have the guts to say it until now. That night, I moved my stuff into the guest room. I started looking for apartments the next morning. Quietly, carefully. Mark kept asking me to talk it out, but I could see it in his face. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a housewife. He didn't want me. He wanted an idea of me that never really existed. One morning while he was at work, I found a copy of a lease at a small apartment complex not far from downtown. I signed it on the spot. I wasn't waiting anymore. But I wasn't going to sneak away like a coward either. I was going to make it very, very clear who lost. I gave myself 3 days to get everything in order. I packed while Mark was at work. I didn't take much, just what I needed. Clothes, my laptop, important documents. Everything else could rot. The night before I planned to leave, I sat him down. He thought I was finally giving in. He looked so smug, sitting there in his worn-out recliner, arms crossed like he was waiting for me to apologize. Instead, I slid a manila envelope across the coffee table. He opened it, confused. Inside was a copy of my new lease and the bill from a locksmith for changing all the locks on the apartment I was moving into. His face fell. "You're leaving?" he said. "I'm not leaving," I told him. "I'm escaping." He looked stunned, then angry. "You're throwing away 6 years over one mistake my mother made?" I leaned forward. "No. I'm leaving because you didn't see it as a mistake. You saw it as fixing me." He tried to argue, tried to tell me he loved me, that he needed me. But love without respect isn't love. It's control. I walked away while he was still talking. The next day, while he was at work, I moved out. I thought it was over. I thought once I was gone, once Cheryl saw she couldn't reach me anymore, they'd both just move on. I was wrong. So wrong. It started small. I'd come out of my apartment to find nasty little notes tucked under my windshield wiper. "You'll regret this. A good woman knows her place. You'll come crawling back." Then the calls started. First from Mark. Then from numbers I didn't recognize, but I knew were Cheryl's friends. Every voicemail was a different flavor of guilt. Family is forever. "You're being cruel. Mark is devastated. You need to apologize." I blocked every number. Changed my number. Didn't tell a soul except Kelsey where I moved. I thought that would be enough. It wasn't. One night, 2 weeks after I left, I came home to find my front door unlocked. Nothing was missing. Nothing was broken. But sitting in the middle of my kitchen table was a plate of homemade cookies, wrapped neatly in plastic wrap, with a note that said, "Come home." No signature. No explanation. Just that. I called the police. Filed a report. They couldn't prove anything. No fingerprints. No security footage. Just my word against whoever left them. I bought a security system the next day. Had cameras installed. Changed the locks again. I told Mark, flat out, "If you or your mother come near me again, I'll get a restraining order." He cried. He begged. He swore it wasn't him. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe Cheryl thought cookies would be the thing that broke me. Maybe she thought sugar and guilt could do what sabotage and cruelty hadn't. It didn't. It just made me colder, harder, more certain than ever that I had made the right choice. But the thing about people like Cheryl, they don't give up when they lose control. They just change tactics. And Cheryl was about to take things to a whole new level. I thought I was ready for anything. I wasn't. About a month after the cookie stunt, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Handwritten. sloppy, almost frantic. It wasn't a threat. It was worse. It was a fake apology. Pages of Cheryl justifying herself, saying she only wanted to help, that she was trying to guide me back to the right path, that it wasn't too late if I just admitted my mistakes. She ended the letter with, "Mark still loves you. He's willing to forgive you if you come back now." I stared at the paper for a long time. Forgive me? After everything they did, that's when it clicked. Cheryl would never stop. Not until she believed she had saved me. She thought she was some kind of holy crusader, and I was her mission. She needed to lose in a way she couldn't ignore. Publicly. Permanently. So I made a plan. First, I gathered everything. The pictures of the notes. The voicemail recordings. The police report from the cookie incident. Screenshots of all the calls and texts. Even a copy of the apology letter. I put it all together into one neat, organized file. Then I waited for the right moment. It came faster than I expected. One day, I heard through the grapevine that Cheryl was about to be honored at her church. They were giving her a Community Role Model award at a big luncheon. Her pastor, her friends, even local reporters were going to be there. Perfect. I mailed an anonymous envelope to the head pastor. Inside was the full file. No letter. No signature. Just the evidence. I also emailed it to every major person on the church's community board. Then I sat back and waited. The fallout was immediate. Apparently, Cheryl got pulled into a private meeting the morning of the luncheon. She was confronted with all the evidence. From what I heard, she broke down crying, swearing it was all a misunderstanding. It didn't matter. They pulled her award. She wasn't even allowed to stay for the lunch. Her reputation in that tight little community? Smashed. The woman who loved standing on a pedestal now couldn't even show her face at the grocery store without people whispering. Mark tried to call me after it happened. He left a voicemail, voice shaking with rage. "I hope you're happy. You destroyed her." I listened to it twice. Then I deleted it. No response. No reaction. Dead silence. I didn't need to say a damn thing. 3 months later, my divorce was finalized. I didn't take much from Mark. Just what was fair. Honestly, I didn't care about the money. I cared about the clean break. No more Cheryl. No more Mark. No more trying to force myself into a life where I was never going to be good enough. Now, I'm thriving at my new job. My boss actually respects me. My coworkers treat me like an equal, not a burden. I moved to a better apartment across town. A place where no one knows my name unless I want them to. Sometimes I still see Cheryl's car parked outside my old neighborhood. Probably hoping I'll drive by. Hoping for one last chance to fix me. She'll die waiting. I'm not her project. I'm not her property. I'm not broken. I never was. She just couldn't stand the fact that she couldn't control me. And now she never will again.